afternoon, Paul. Talked a lot about the fourth line lately, but not necessarily about Trevor Lewis. How would you describe what he's brought to your group this year?
Just an incredible consistency to his game. I think that's what the fourth line has become, is that style of game. We've got Nate Thompson and Trevor really familiar with each other. We fire out that idea that the guy's a real good pro, and I've said before, what that means is, as a coach, you don't worry about him coming to the rink. There's no surprises in his game. That they can do it every practice. They look the same every game. They look the same. So the penalty kill, big part of that. But I mean, you've all seen that the fourth line minutes have increased here, probably from the first game in Montreal when we started this long kind of excursion that we're on. And that's not a function alone of me trying to manage the team's minutes. Matter of fact, if I couldn't put them on the ice or I didn't have the confidence in them, I wouldn't do it. We would just become more fatigued as a team and try to win a different way. What their quality of their play has put them on the ice with the goalie out at times. I had them off the bench third with the goalie out. We never got to it because we scored. They were the next line out. They've just done all the right things defensively and also in terms of competition level. And Trevor is, at least a third of that. He's been outstanding.
We'll go next to Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Paul. Good afternoon. Curious to know, your team has been able to say the right things after games, wins, losses, whatever it might be. But I think the key thing, and maybe both of them are key, but also been able to go out and kind of to do what you say you've done. Not every team can do that, and not every team can even do both. So how important has that been for you guys this year?
I think what that relates to, Scott, is, I kind of mentioned it, a bit of a hockey IQ that we have here now, a little bit more of a veteran group. They know what they see on the ice. So when they're assessing the game after, they're doing it in an honest manner. I mean, I haven't had to go in and brief them on the direction that I think that the conversation is going to take after and give them some heads up. We've just talked about the game, but where things are, what happened tonight, what we're going to do tomorrow, how we want to handle the day the next day. And it's all been true. So we've been very honest in our assessment of the games and accurate on those assessments. And they've agreed, if that works, right? They look at the video the next day and they say, yeah, that was a problem. We've got to be better there. And then there's an interest, as a team gets older, as players get older, there's slightly less self-interest and there's a greater team interest, right? They're not just breaking into the league. They're not trying to get that first contract done. They're not, the Jets slowly start to come first. And because of that, they can assess a weakness and say, yeah, we got to get better at that. Or we were good there. We want to keep going. So I found, when you go and talk to a player, you talk to a line after, I found they've been right. I haven't had to convince them that this wasn't good or this needs to be better. I think they've got a good hockey IQ. They understand what they're seeing.
We'll go next to Jason Bell from the Free Press. Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead, Jason.
I unmuted. Is it fair to say, Paul, and not to denigrate anybody who's been here before, but is it fair to say that you have more trust in this fourth line than maybe you had in the past? And to that point, has that been what's maybe held this program back from taking the next step?
No, I think so. Yes, to the first part of the question. I think when we had Perreault, Hendricks, and Armia as a fourth line, I played those guys a little bit more. This is a different, you've got two penalty killers that are legitimate penalty killers there, so they have a good defensive background on the left side. I think his time with Lowry and Kopp has made him a better player. He makes better reads, so there's an improvement there. I don't know that it's held it back because I think it was a necessary function. So, I mean, you have to realize how young this group was like 2 or 3 years ago, even 4 years ago. So now we've got, Scheif at 28, but he's one of our older guys a few years ago and he's 24. So he's still learning a lot about the game. And there was a time that I think we had, Lemieux, Patan, Appleton was a rookie. We had some really, really young players on our fourth line that were still learning the game. So they just, Roslovic at a point in time, we needed to develop those guys to give them a chance to see where they would fit. And you also trying to win hockey games. And a bigger part, maybe all of this, Jason, is that this schedule isn't like any other one we've ever faced. And if you don't have four lines to play, you're gonna just get pounded. So it's necessary for us to have this veteran group, and it's made us better.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to go with a different question, but your answer there kind of derailed me. You talked about Perreault getting better, and it seems strange to think of a player who's that age advancing and becoming more than what they've been in the past. And I mean, we just came off talking about Andrew Kopp and him discovering this offensive side that he never had. If I take a look up and down your group, there's a lot of players who seem to be getting better at a time when maybe most players have defined themselves and already know what they are. What do you think it is about your group that they seem to be looking beyond the horizon and chasing what's beyond that horizon?
I think they're just getting older. You know, I think when you look at Lowry's line, each one of them trying to find their game. Mason Appleton just kind of this year taking that job. They're just getting to a point where there's some synergy with what they're doing. They make each other a little bit better. They kind of understand what the other guy's going to do. So there's a, you know, I mean, when you look at young players that come in and put up big numbers, they do. And we've drafted very well here, but it takes a long time for them to learn the other parts of the game that give your team a better chance to win. And I mean, we're still working on that every day. We're still, you know, we work in themes here, maybe more than I would suggest we have in the past, where we don't need to go through 15 different things a day, because, you know, we'll take a look at a piece of our game and we'll cover that for 2 or 3 games, and they get it, and they move forward with it. And even in our losses, and I'm going to ask for the one-off in Montreal not to be included in this. You still pretty much understood our game. There were some things didn't go for us, or we didn't capitalize, or we, you know, make a few mistakes in these tight games. They cost you, but we've been a pretty consistent group this year. And I think it goes back to the earlier question. I think they're smarter and they've got more experience.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Gregor. Paul, I'm going to preface this question with the idea that you're going to not make any lineup changes from what you've had.
Yep.
So on that note, how significant has it been? I don't think you went 9 periods last year with the same lineup, let alone 9 games. So how significant has that been to everything you just described there about the consistency, knowing what to expect on a night-to-night basis, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's some luck involved with this, Kelly. Like, there's no doubt about it. We've been able to knock on wood of broken bones that we couldn't last year. I'm hopeful that us being able to flatten the minutes out across our bench has made our recovery better, but it's a huge, huge piece to it, right? The relative to where we were at different points last year. I mean, I think we went into Columbus with 9 guys out of our lineup and played hard, but we've been lucky. We've been really, really lucky this year. And if we're going to take any credit for it, we've really tried to manage time on ice in games, time on ice between games. You know, and I also think that the opportunity to stay in one city for a bunch of days, it can get a bit of a mental grind, but in terms of, you know, not getting off the airplane at 3:00 in the morning 3 times in 1 week gives you a better chance to stay healthy.
We'll go next to Ted Wyman from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Ted.
Hey, Paul. Pierre-Luc's first game as a Jet was in Calgary back in early February, and I asked him a bit about where he thought his game has come since then, and I'm just wondering if you could give us your assessment of that.
Yeah, so on the wing, and still nursing an injury at the time to, you know, going into the Vancouver series. I thought they were our best line for a few games, right? There's something there. There's something coming, and he's probably the youngest guy in our group right now. He's just going to keep getting better and better week over week, month over month. He's hard on himself. He's critical of his game, but we see his wingers at times having really big nights, playing really, really well. That's kind of the first sign that there's some chemistry with that group. I just see so much more potential in this young man, big, powerful guy. And as he gets to use it and grow into it, you know, he's going to become a dominant center iceman that's going to be matched against the other team's best and be able to hold that line and be able to generate offense. And I'm really happy with where he's at. I think he's got a long way in terms of what he's capable of improving into. Like, there's a lot of potential, which is a dangerous word for coaches, right? We hate that word. But the potential is that he's already doing good things, and you can already see those things. So you get excited about where he's going to get to.
We'll go next to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Hi, Paul. I'm thinking, in a 56-game schedule, do you break it up into little micro pieces, whether it's 7-game chunks or months or what have you? And do you use that as an opportunity to add elements to your game, build? I guess the end question at the end of that really is what chapter or section of your build through the season are you in, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, you know what? I think the league has done that for us, Murat. Like, you get this kind of section, right? It's going to be the Calgary games now, right? So you get this kind of built-in 3-game block, and we're only talking about that. So there's the bigger picture things that we want in our game every night, and then Calgary will force us or allow us to work on a specific part of the game. It'll be puck speed tonight, how fast we move the thing, our feet, or the puck have got to move quickly in here, and we've got to use ice in behind this team. And that's an important concept when you play certain styles. So the Toronto series, we'll go back to that, was a slot team opportunity. For the first 2 games, they just tore us apart in the slot, and we were fortunate. Our goalie was incredible, and then we were much better in game through. The Edmonton series is a rush game, and we didn't succeed in that, but we needed to get better in that. The Vancouver game was going to be a breakout game, right? Like, they're going to forecheck you in a certain way, and you have to get handle it. So we're working these blocks. Some of it, the opponent is going to bring a strength. Everyone has a strength. So you need to be able to learn how to handle that strength and then play your game. And yeah, they're kind of succeed or fail based on how that series goes. We've been pretty good in the series so far. But that's kind of how, what makes this maybe more, I think there's a really good opportunity to kind of build your team in this kind of format that you can really focus on certain aspects of your game specific to that series. And of course, you always have those things that have to be prevalent every single night. But we've used it more as, okay, this series is going to look like this. This is where we got to be good if we want a chance to win, and then assessing that after each game. And then maybe we learned something new about a team that we didn't expect to see. When you get a coaching change, this is going to look different than our earlier Calgary games. But the league is kind of built in this nice little way to bookend. I think the other way to look at it, when you're going and you're playing St. Louis and you got Dallas and then you got New York and then Montreal and then you're out and home to Edmonton, that's why you do that kind of 7-game block, because there's almost no theme to that, right? Like, every playoff series has a theme, and then every one of these series, because we're playing the same team multiple games in a row, it's kind of got its own built-in book.
And final question to Ken Weeb from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
What was the rhythm versus rest discussion around Connor Hellebuyck like, and how did you land on what your decision was in net for these 2 games here?
Just function of how he was feeling, right? We do that kind of each game. The back-to-back, LB has expertise in that game, right? On not skating the morning skate and then going into play. So he's good at it. Connor felt strong, kind of watching the numbers. LB plays in Edmonton on the back-to-back, so Connor gets his 3-game run. So we're kind of in that 3 or 4 game block idea with Connor Hellebuyck, and then it's volume, and there was a lot of outside action for him. And the first game was a little bit funny. He felt there wasn't as much action against in the first game that we played in Van, so he was kind of feeling strong and wanted the game. So that's how we split it.